And now we take you live to the Aiken County Historical Museum's State of the Museum Address.
So we actually did the State of the Union back in 2019. It was one of the first things I did as director. Because I wanted everybody who volunteered for the museum or worked in the museum in some way to have insight into what was coming up in the next year. And, I kind of prided myself, because the mayor has a State of the City address, and the county has a State of the County, then I needed to have a State of the Museum, because we're just as important as they are. So this kind of started from that, and then of course, 2020, something kind of happened. I don't know what, but something kind of prevented the 2021 and 2020 talks. So this is the first time we brought it back because of COVID concerns. What we're going to be going through today, we hope to not keep y'all longer than, say, 3 hours. So I hope you're settled in.
Where's lunch?
Yeah, exactly. No, hopefully it'll only take about 45 minutes. And then we'll have like 15 minutes Q&A after that, so that if you want to ask questions of Leo or I, we're here to grant an audience with, questions I would choose. No, we're here for y'all to ask questions of anytime, but particularly today we have a captive audience. So I always have to go over how is the museum operated. A lot of people don't know how we operate. And then I'm going to go over our strategic plan, which I have some copies of up here if anybody wants one. The master plans for exhibits and grounds, the gift store, which Leah is going to talk about, and our docents, the capital sales, tax projects, and online collections. So Leah and I are going to be going back and forth a little bit throughout the talk, so you don't get bored of one of us.
Guess I should watch this too.
Yeah. It's good information. Yeah. Many of y'all may or may not know, which probably already do, that we are a public-private hybrid. So a large portion of the county's funds comes from Aiken County. Staff are paid by Aiken County. They maintain the building. They pay our electric bill, our water bill. Thankfully, I never have to see that for 17,500 square foot building. My eyes are probably bulged from their sockets if I ever saw a water bill and electric bill. So they handle all the upkeep of the building and pay for staff and pay for professional development and office supplies. Hi. Now, so that's Aiken County. And the other part that's private is the Friends of the ACA Gym. So the Friends of the ACA Gym were created in 1983. 1983, and they support basically what the county does not. So they pay for our exhibits, they pay for artifact preservation and storage, and they pay for these educational outreach programs and things like that. So they pay for the guts of the building while the county maintains the exterior and the staff. Clay Killian is technically head of Aiken County. He is the Aiken County administrator. Now, under him is Philip Strawbridge, who's the chairman of the Historical Commission. And Philip is my boss, and he is over the Historical Commission. The Historical Commission, is made up of 9 representatives, and each Aiken County council member gets to pick one person from their district to sit on a historical commission. So, for instance, Cynthia is elected by Kathy Rawls, yes, whose district is Wagner, Sally, no.
Aiken.
Yeah, that's Aiken.
Yeah, northeast corner.
Northeast corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Cynthia lives in that district, so Kathy Rawls appoints her from that district to sit on the Historical Commission. The Historical Commission has governance over the museum. They make sure that basically me and I are not taking funds and going to Cabo for the weekend. Darn.
Let's be good.
Exactly. I'll take you. We'll work something out. And they also make sure that the public image of the museum is living up to its expectations. And they basically just make sure the museum is operating as it should. Now, like I said, they're appointed by Aiken County Council members, so that's kind of a sidetrack to it. The Friends are completely independent. They have no supervision by Historical Commission other than they check in with the Historical Commission. They run completely separate, and we rely on them for bringing the museum to life. So they are their own thing, basically. Now, underneath the Historical Commission is me. Underneath me is Leah and Alyssa. And I put under Leah the museum assistants like Ian and Teresa. And we actually have a new employee. Her name is Joy Waters. And she is the new SRS museum weekend person. So that's also under the museum assistants. But sometimes we kind of switch around. So sometimes the museum assistants, I'll reach out to them and schedule things. But most of the time it's Leah with events and whatnot, special after hours things. Strategic plan. So the museum had not had a strategic plan since 2012. And you're supposed to have one redone every 5 years. So that was also a big initiative when I came on as director, is to create a strategic plan. And it is a multi-page document. I made 5 copies, so if anybody wants one, please feel free to come up and take one. It will also be uploaded to our website when that launches. So it is a public document and it is a living document. It is goals and objectives and tasks for the staff to complete to meet the mission of the museum. And like I said, it is a living document, so it does change because, of course, we created it in 2019 with no idea that the pandemic was going to hit. And so the goals have had to be adjusted because obviously we have not had school tours and a lot of events going on because of COVID. It'll be posted, and then we've got what the American Association of Museums or the American Alliance of Museums says about a strategic plan, which is basically how a museum looks forward to operating. Now, we're going to delve a little bit into our master plan and go over exhibits and grounds. Upcoming for our exhibit schedule, we have four temporary exhibits coming in this year. We're very excited to have a lot of temporary exhibits so that we can build up our audience, bring in new folks to the museum. We always see a bump whenever we have a temporary exhibit. It's always wonderful to see new faces in the museum. The first one up is A Source of Life. That is one we're partnering with the Aiken Synagogue on, the Adapt Shalom Synagogue, and it will be about the Jewish merchants of Aiken. It will highlight the families, their contributions to the Aiken community, and will be on display from, I think it launches March 4th, but we'll have it over the course March 1st, March 2nd, that kind of time frame. And then it'll go until about mid-May. Now, the curator for this exhibit is Steve Silver. He's a member of the synagogue, and he has done the majority of the work on this exhibit. We're just facilitating it. And it's being done because last year, actually in 2019, or 2020, they approached us about doing a 100th anniversary celebration of the synagogue's charter. So that's what brought about the exhibit. It was actually supposed to be last year, but with COVID, they canceled it. So it is coming this year. And we're looking forward to it. And Leah will talk more about how we're going to incorporate that new audience into the products we offer in the gift shop. The Embroiderers Guild has not had an exhibit with us in several years. And they came a few months ago and asked about having an exhibit with us once again. So we're going to have them for June of 2022. They're going to be in the parlor. So this will be an Embroiderers Guild and the Point Guild Bacon. We're also going to have a Smithsonian exhibit. This is something that we applied for through the South Carolina Humanities. And it is only coming to 6 cities in all of South Carolina, and we are one of them. Yeah, so good job. Thank you. And it's actually interesting how it worked out. The South Carolina Humanities put a call out and said, hey, we want to bring the Smithsonian exhibit to South Carolina. Please apply if your town would like to host it. I reached out to the South Carolina Humanities, and they said, oh, there's somebody already from Aiken applying for this exhibit. And I went, darn, no, I was really hoping that we could bring it here to the museum. And TJ, who runs that part of the granting system for SC Humanities, said, well, you might know her. Her name is Dee Crawford. And I was like, I know Miss Dee. And she's like, we might want to partner with her because she's unsure about the exhibit side of it. She's more interested in the events. And I said, perfect, we're more interested in the exhibit side. And so I reached out to Dee Crawford, the Second Baptist Church, and we got together, we co-wrote the grant together, submitted it through the Friends, and we were awarded the grant. So the exhibit is coming here from July 27th to September 3rd. It is only a 6-week exhibition, but it's going to be action-packed. We're going to have tons of events partnering with this exhibit, and some of those events will actually precede the exhibit because we had so much going on, we had to bring it out early. The interesting thing about Voices and Votes, Democracy in America is the title of the exhibit, is that SC Communities gives us $2,500 to pay for programs and a companion exhibit because you have to produce an exhibit on your local county or your local area's history of voting rights. So out of this exhibit, not only are we hosting a Smithsonian exhibit, but they're paying us to build an exhibit about our own history as it pertains to voting rights, which of course brings out such people as Julie Sally and Dr. James Ballman. So we're going to have some great history that'll appear off of that. And then once the exhibit's gone, we get to keep our exhibit, the one that we made, and I'll find a place to put it in the museum, and it'll just further enhance our museum. Of course, coming every November, this will be the 42nd year of their exhibiting with us, is the Carolina Pine Quilters Guild, which always brings in a ton of people. And last year, Leah bought these little cute little quilt ornaments for the gift shop, and they sold out the pancakes in. They're pretty awesome. Now, as far as permanent exhibits go, we do have the opening set for the military exhibit. It'll be March 25th. If you want to take a peek in there, you can kind of see how I've started laying out the pedestals. And of course, the floors have been redone, the walls have been redone. In the next couple of weeks, my main focus is going to be the Jewish Merchants exhibit, getting that ready, getting that installed. And then starting in early March, we'll start on the military exhibit, bringing that all together. And if you saw the row of mannequins in the hallway, that's those. So we've been working on it this past week. The next stop that we have being installed permanently is the Pegasia exhibit. So a lot of people ask me, we already have a Pegasia exhibit, why are we building another Pegasia exhibit? Well, the Pegasia exhibit upstairs is all about the families. It only documents 90 years of our history here. So this new exhibit is actually going to cover the whole gamut. So if a visitor walks in the front door and all they have is 30 minutes, because you know sometimes we have people walk in at 4:30, you're like, why? You know, there's so much to see here, you can't possibly do it in 30 minutes. Well, if they only have 30 minutes, they can go to the right and learn about Atkins County history, and they can go to the left, the parlor, and learn about site history. And the site history is going to cover everything from private home, and the 1,000-acre Coker Spring tract, all the way through the boarding house to university, the library, and the museum's history. So this is where our history will be as far as the museum goes. I'm also going to try to get the sports exhibit open this year, because I think it's been about 2 years it's been closed. Yeah, slow development on that. So I'm trying to get the sports exhibit open this year as well. So somewhere in between all this, I got to squeeze it in. As far as the grounds go, I know, no, you're not talking about this one, so I get to cover this one. You may have noticed that all of our azaleas got yanked out last week, and sorry. And so that is from a Boonville Woodside grant, which Ms. Chris is involved with. They gave us $3,000 2 years ago, to have the front beds redone. And due to various issues and whatnot, we're just now getting around to it. But Linda Rudd and Catherine Darwin, who are two master gardeners, have developed a plan. We're going to have red encore azaleas planted up front, so that red is the white and black over the top. And they've also got, I think, a form of holly coming in as well, with some of the evergreen as well. So that master plan should be in place, hopefully about mid-February. Oh yeah, the azaleas were given a second home. They weren't just destroyed. Yeah, I mean they were huge and overgrown, but they got hauled off and they're in somebody's yard now. So they have a second life. They didn't get destroyed.
Where did they go?
Somebody's house.
Somebody's house, yeah.
Yeah, we had buildings and ground rip them out, and they said they had a guy on staff who wanted them. Well, all right.
As long as they didn't go in the dumpster, I didn't get rid of it.
Yeah, exactly. We are adding Pegasia Rose back to the grounds. A lot of people have been asking about that. So you may or may not have noticed that normally our Pegasia is blooming lovingly on the wall over there around March. Well, county buildings and grounds decided that was too much trouble because it grows up into the trees, grows up into the gutters, grows up into the power lines, that kind of thing. And so we've got to find another area where maybe it can grow onto a trellis or maybe a not portico, I think the pavilion little thing, so that it can grow on that and not through gutters and damage the building. We also got a grant from the South Carolina Humanities Council to put up new signage on the grounds. So we're going to have a new sign. It's going to look just like the one in the parking lot, that kind of wayside sign from the National Park System kind of thing. And it's going to be, one's going to be at the courthouse bell. We've got the Transit of Venus, Myrtle Cabin, Schoolhouse, Buttery, and there's one more. A horse mount. Yeah, the horse mount. So we're going to get those exhibits up so people don't walk by. What was it? One gentleman, he thought the horse mount was a prayer area.
Yeah, a prayer area. And then one guy told it, I heard him telling his daughters that if you weren't able to get onto your own horse, then you weren't able to get married. And it was out there a lot. So it's time.
It's time to interpret the history correctly. So we're going to get all that done. And also people think the Buttery is a tunnel that runs under the building. I had a filmmaker come here one day and she asked if she could film in our tunnel. And I said, well, she said, well, somebody told me there was a tunnel that ran under the building. We'd like to film in there for our movie. We have a spooky scene. I was like, there's no tunnel here. But then one of the city workers came to pick up the Islam desk and, well, sort of Islam desk, maybe just Islam desk. And he said, so what's with the tunnel on the hillside? I'm like, son of a biscuit. It's not a tunnel. It's not a tunnel. So hopefully we can correct all of that as well. This grant for the signage also gave us enough money to put one sign in each incorporated town in Aiken County, and there are 10 of them. And we're going to write those panels with the towns, and it's going to tell the town's history. So Vernon Town, North Augusta, Wagner, all those incorporated cities will get their own signage as well. One of the other fun things we have coming up that I didn't put on here is that the Friends also helped us apply for a grant for the passport system. And the passport system is going to be a little passport, and it's going to be all about the history of Aiken County and all the different sites you can go that are open to the public. When you go to that public site, you get a stamp. And then when you've gotten all your stamps collected, there are 15 sites, you bring it to the gift shop, and we'll have certificates for y'all to give out to visitors who turn in their passport, and then we'll find some kind of little gift to say, you've completed it, now you're an Aiken County explorer or Aiken County historian or something to that effect. So that'll come out in March. The one cent sales tax, I want to go over that real quickly. I know you've seen the changes going on to the rooms. In 2011 or 2010, when Elliot was director here, he put in for $250,000 to be directed from the 1 cent sales tax to the Aiken County Historical Museum. And the idea was always that it had to be used for permanent renovations to the building. It can't be used for something that's going to be temporarily beneficial. So it has to be a permanent structural change to the museum. That's why we started seeing things like the sliding glass wall being installed back there to create rental storage, because the renters were having to go up and down with that storage unit right here, and I was always afraid somebody was going to trip and hurt themselves. And so now we've got everything rental involved back there. That glass is going to have a vinyl graphic put over it that'll talk about the military exhibit. So in about a month, you won't be able to see any of the stuff and clutter behind it. And it's going to get repainted in that area too. We started repainting the building and doing the wooden floor finishing. We've had windows all tinted. I would say 98% of all of our windows are now tinted, and they'll be good for another 10 years or so. And that was an initiative of Alyssa because she wanted to block a lot of the UV light that was damaging a lot of our paintings and costumes and things like that. If you ever remember the flags that were up in the county history room when it was a Civil War exhibit, when we took those down and we unframed them and we flipped them over, they were dramatically different colors. And that's because they've been on display for 10 years in direct sunlight. So that severely damages a lot of our artifacts. So that was one of the big initiatives. We are working with the county right now to get a new alarm system and security cameras. There will be about 15 security cameras, some exterior, some interior, to better keep an eye on naughty visitors, which I will show you some pictures of later. This is always when we have our shaming of the museum guests. We are also having the Herrington balcony restored. That's a big initiative of Phillips, our chairman. He wants to see that structurally sound and safe. So if you know the back of the building, you know, the 3-car garage, the little balcony that's above it, they actually used to use that. People used to play music on it. They would give speeches right there back when that was the original museum section. So it'd be nice to have that restored to safety standards. We also have an initiative to make the campus more ADA friendly. I know that we can't do a whole lot in the building, like adding an elevator would be great. But what we are hoping to do is at least make grounds more friendly. So you notice when you park up in our parking lot, you can take the ramp up to the patio park. But there's no ramp to take you into the gardens. And the gardens are gorgeous. And so we're hoping to add a little ramp there so that when somebody comes up, they can take the access down to the gardens and at least explore our grounds and that. Of the $250,000, we've spent about $60,000 to $70,000 so far. We've still got some projects to go. Brenda, before she left out as director in 2018, she had applied for another $65,000 from the ones that sales tax to come to us. So overall, they take a certain percentage for administration. So we end up with about $290,000, $300,000 overall in the next several years to spend on the building. So I will turn it over to Ms. Leah.
Are those the slide I was supposed to look at?
Yes.
Thank you. Is there more than one slide?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I don't know how to act. As y'all know, I don't normally use a PowerPoint when I talk. She hates it, and I do. So if you give me a second, I need to read this. Yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to talk about. Great job, Lauren. You're welcome. Great. Yes. Perfect. Great job. All right. Okay, so this is essentially what I wanted to talk about. I have, as you all know, Miss Nancy retired from keeping the gift store, managing the gift store in June, the end of June. And so I have ran it since then with the help of Lauren and Alyssa and whoever else is
Miss Linda.
Yes, Miss Linda. Oh my gosh. Linda's that one. I could have done it without her. And anyone else who has given me advice or suggestion. So I wanted to specifically talk about the gift shop first because there have been so many different rumors going around about the gift shop about we might close it might not last a year, things like that. And so I just wanted to tell you that if you do hear a rumor about something, just ask me because as most of y'all know, I love to talk. And so I will probably just sit there and tell you 15 minutes of nothing you ever wanted to hear anyway. But if you do, I mean, any kind of rumor that you hear, like if you hear I'm not an actual redhead, y'all tell me. Because it's a lot.
I was ready now.
Thank you, Robert. Oh. So I know there was a lot of rumors that were going around, but I wanted to let you know we don't have any intention of closing. We did just have our own report evaluation inside, and then we're going to have the financial report is due to the historical commission, and so we're going to be doing that soon. And really, if you run a museum or a museum gift store as a business, it's always going to fail. It's never going to be something that's in it's not a profit maker, if you will. But with that said, when I took over, we had a really small bank account and a really large amount of debt. And so we had to sell the majority of our merchandise. And so that's why everybody thought that that we weren't going to put anything back in it. And it was just very bare for a really long time. But we had about $600, I guess, and then about $4,000 in taxes and such. And so that, we just had to kind of put a halt to everything and get our bank account back in the out of the red. So we are not planning to close. I'm working far too hard for that. Our plan is, however, to get more local, regional things, whether it's from Aiken, whether it's from our Aiken County area, whether it's from just South Carolina or just the Southeast. We want things that are more relevant to our mission, that are more relevant to the museum itself and to our exhibits. And then we want more items at lower price points and more items for children. Now, I'm not saying that we are going to be getting rid of everything, because we're not. We're keeping the obvious favorites. Frog Jam, the peach salsa. We are keeping the beeswax spray. I accidentally ran out of the beeswax spray, and that was really a bad idea. I didn't like that. But we want to start getting in more merchandise that is related to the mission. That's very critical to me. Into our exhibits. So we will start to see different things. Like I've got postcards. I've got all 3 postcards in of our 2 outbuildings, and then of Pegasia itself. I would like to do some postcards that are related to our exhibits, like other museums do. I don't think they're going to be real big sellers, but we might do if we had, like, for instance, if we had our dress exhibits, the 1920s dress exhibit, then I would like to have done postcards a bit, with close-up pictures, because they did some beautiful photography and things like that. So I'm going to show you a couple of things here. If you want. Okay. So this is like the boutique type items that we are going to kind of ship. So this is a flowery scarf. It's floral. So I'm relating it to the garden show that we're going to have in May. The silver ball that you see on it is from a vendor from North Carolina who works solely in theater, and it's a little scarf ring that goes around it. And that same vendor is also the one that makes all of our pewter ornaments as well. That's sold like hotcakes. Really good. We have ordered twice at Christmas. And sold one of those. And then, of course, we have the frog jam in a couple of different sizes. We have peach salsa, and we cracked some of this open the other day at lunch to see what it was like. Pretty good. And then today we're going to open these because we've never tried these. These are wine chips, and they are potato chips that are supposed to pair with wine. No wine, but we got no, can't do it. But if y'all meet these right outside the wall. And then we got our Pegasia ornament. We had that made by a husband and wife team from Virginia, and they took an existing photo of Pegasia and made it into that line drawing, and made a prototype for us, and we were like, yes, we will. And
you said it was a favorite ones that are done. They might have been lying to us and buy it.
true, but also this is their first one that they've done specifically like this, and so he's going to use this as their showpiece when they go to fair and to market and things. He's going to take that with him. And then I want to do things that are. Oh wait, here's another. Our favorites. I want to do local authors. I want to expand the local author section just a little, not a whole bunch. I don't want to be, a library or a bookstore or anything, but we are going to keep the favorites. But then I also want to do things that are related to exhibits that are coming. So you'll see a couple of little shelves in there that are dedicated to Jewish items or Hebrew. There are Judaica, just a little area for it, and we will see how that goes. But we have far too many people that aren't represented in the gift shop, and so I wanted to start getting some of that in. And then, of course, everyone loves to come here for cards. It's amazing. I was going through. We were looking for a sympathy card the other day, and I was going through my cards, and I picked them out, and I said, "Here, pick them out." And Alyssa picked them up and said, "These are garbage. Go in the gift shop." So, so I've gotten like different kinds of cards too. This is wooden. I just thought it was the coolest thing. So pass that around. But I want to keep getting the things that we've always had and that we are known for having. But I want to spice it up a little too. Now this is, if y'all haven't seen this is our new Pegasia candle.
You don't mind it.
I'm so sorry. My mama, God rest her soul, y'all know how much I love my mama, but it stinks like my mama. I'm a terrible, I hate rose scented things. And so my mama would just, she had perfume and powder and soap, and I was like, "Oh, Mama, you smell so bad." So it reminds me of my mom. Y'all know how much I love my mama, but Lord have mercy. So we have a Pegasia candle, and it came from Iron Gate Candle Company. We do sell it's kind of a Atkins themed line. We have Winter Colony and Hitchcock Woods and Whiskey and Easy in the little candle section too. But they did make our very own Pegasia candle proprietary blend. You can only buy it here. So we're hoping that they sell a little better in the spring. Otherwise, they said that we can potentially go back and get another flavor if people open these and say, "Oh my God, that's Kathy Walker." Thank God y'all can't tell my mom. And then other Atkins things. This actually came from New Jersey, but it was printed in New Jersey, and the mug was made in China. I've got to be more careful, because I want to get USA things or the Southern things. But cute little diner mug that has our name on it, and then this came from, and I'm actually drinking out of we have one that has 803, and then we will have this one that says 29801. I'm drinking out of the 803 one. I had to cover it with stickers because they accidentally sent us North Carolina's outline with our area code. Yeah. But when I got it out of the box, I showed it to like 3 or 4 people, and all of them were from South Carolina, and all of them were like, "Oh, that's nice." And me from Tennessee was like, "That's not your state. Did you miss that outline on your state?" And they did. All of them. No. Then she looked at it again. Then you're adorable, and I agree. Then just fun stuff that is kind of period appropriate, if you will, to when other members would live in this house. So the 1800s part of the house, that is. So these are wax sealing stamps. So you get the wax seal, or you get the seal and the wax, and then you get a colored stamp to stamp that into, and then the wax so that it makes two different colors. So these are both in the shop as well. Yeah. I used to send years ago. I used to send all of my cards and things, letters with wax seal stamp. No, it was back in my 20s when I had a lot more time. And Brenda actually came in one time, which was packing in her office, and the very first card that I ever sent her back in 2011, she brought it in and she's like, "Look, you never do this anymore." I don't, but I did the very first few that I sent to her were always wax sealed. That was my thing. It's amazing how many times we got requests for Aiken-related items, or just, do you have a mug, do you have a sticker, do you have a magnet? And we didn't have anything that said Aiken on it. And people were, like, at the train museum, people at the visitor center, they were sending people here because they thought, oh, we don't have it at the museum bill. And the museum didn't have it. And so I'm trying to get these things in and listen to y'all, listen to people that come in and buy this. And I'll talk about that more in a second. But, and then a couple of little items that, well, I bought these in the hope that we were going to have 20s thing.
Oh, the Gatsby.
Gatsby, thank you so much. The Gatsby party. And so these are little cocktail kits. And this is the mint julep kit. We also have a champagne cocktail kit. And it comes with everything in this one. But it's so cool because it comes with, like, everything that I'm not much of a drinker.
No.
And so I would have at home, I would have bitters or, something like mint bitter. Yeah, I wouldn't have that. But I might have gin.
That's perfect.
No, not fermented. What do you put in it?
Bourbon.
Bourbon. You definitely wouldn't have that either. So maybe a champagne cocktail. Yeah, you like champagne. So those are the kinds of things that we're kind of going in the direction of, and then also staying in the direction of. I don't want it to be a completely different gift store than we have all grown to know and love, and that Nancy worked so hard to build. I know it was scary for a while because we were so bare, but we're back and we're booming, and we're hoping to have way more things from local people and more Aiken-related things as well. If you do see something that you would like to have in the gift shop, because I get pictures all the time from people that, or someone will bring something in and say, we need this. And sometimes we do need it, sometimes we don't. But if you have something that you'd love to see in the gift shop, you'd love for us to carry, let me know. I also want to let you know that the way that I am purchasing things is radically different than the way that Nancy bought things. When Nancy was purchasing, she had to buy from a market. She bought from market, and she bought from vendors that required a minimum purchase of thousands of dollars. And that terrifies me. Spending with $400 at one time terrifies me. You can tell I'm not a homeowner. The most expensive thing I own are shoes. So it scares me. But I found a couple of websites, and these websites are brilliant. They allow small business owners, small craftspeople to come together and put their own online store at this on this one website. And I found some of our retailers on there as well, like the Book Jig, they're the White Ladybug, or I can't remember what it's called, but the book jigs that we have, they're on this website, so I can order from them and use our existing account with them. But because I'm ordering through this website, the minimum is only $150. So I don't have to buy $1,000 worth of one product. So that's what I'm doing right now. So you're going to see a lot of small purchases. Just like $100 worth of cards, $100 worth of this, or $300 worth of that. So you're going to see smaller purchases so we can see what works and what doesn't. When I came in this morning, Miss Linda said that brittle, the peanut brittle that we had, she said that's completely sold out, and we've had several requests for more. I had no intention of buying that again until October. So there's we're getting requests in for it, and but it's such a small minimum and such a small minimum reorder that I can do that. I can order, 6 or 8 pieces and not have to order 24. So, but it's also allowing me to pick and choose who I buy from, in that it tags these shops and says that it's women owned or black owned or doesn't sell on Amazon or made in USA. And so I can specifically search for these places and find people who are what we want to buy, basically. Let's see. I think that is about it for me. Should I click the clicker? Not me.
Okay, so you are our front line. You are the people who actually read our guests, get to know them, make a connection with them. We're upstairs hiding in their offices. So this is basically how to handle working in public and some of the most requested interactions that you may have. And feel free to give comments or feedback at this point, because like I said, y'all know more than Leah and I do about this. But one of the biggest things we've seen increase is the photography. Hopeland's Garden, I don't know if y'all know, has started charging people to photograph at Hopeland's. You now have to have a business license. You now have to apply for a certain time slot in a certain location, or they'll kick you off of the grounds.
This technically is me. Do you want me to?
No, that's right.
Sorry.
It's all good. So we have seen a giant increase in photographers coming here. A lot of it is casual, like prom pictures, things like that. But Ian can testify to this. We've seen a lot more people setting up staging here. We had one photographer at Christmas who brought a sofa, and she set up a sofa at the bottom of the balcony with a Christmas tree and presents and Santa. And she came and she booked the time with us. We have now a photography request form at the front desk. She filled it out, she emailed it to Leah, and we booked her time slot so that she had permission to come up the driveway and haul the sofa up to the balcony. So we're seeing more and more of that. It is our goal right now not to charge for that. It would just be a hassle and a half to try and track all these people.
That's exterior, though.
Exterior, correct. If they're coming inside, we have a whole another kit caboodle of regulations, because we're a museum first. We're not somebody's studio backdrop. If they're going to be, perchance, damaging an artifact or blocking visitors or taking over a bathroom for their bridal gown, yeah. So we are not here to be a professional photography studio inside. So please keep an eye out for that. We often say to the guests that if they do photograph here that we're like a park for Aiken County. We're open from dawn to dusk. And it is a leave no trace photography policy. Do not leave behind props. What did we find? An ultrasound in a frame the other day? Yeah. We found an ultrasound picture of a baby in utero, obviously, in a frame that was left outside. Somebody had posed with it as I'm sure, an announcement and left it. We have found baby blankets. We have found glitter and confetti. Yeah. So, and Ian was here when somebody did a wedding rehearsal. It was the night before the wedding, or the day before the wedding. They did a rehearsal photography shoot with all their family. And when we left at 5, they were still back there on the balcony. And when Ian came in Saturday morning, there was all this paper all over the balcony. And we figured out what happened is after we left at 5, they set off a confetti cannon. And the confetti cannon shot paper out into the yard, the balcony, the steps, the patio, everything. So bless his heart, I think he spent 4 hours.
Yeah.
4 hours cleaning it up. So, yeah. So,
Oh, man.
so that was bad. That was bad. So once the website's up, we also have photography rules for the grounds, things like that. We have had an increase in people traveling with dogs and trying to bring them into the museum. Leah and I are suckers for dogs. We just love them. So if somebody's coming here and they have a dog with them and they're not willing to leave the dog at the hotel or something like that, and the dog might get too hot in the car and things like that, I've been letting them bring them into the foyer. They have to stay in the foyer. They cannot go anywhere else other than the foyer. But I'd rather have a dog inside here and potentially die in a heat stroke out in the car. But they cannot take that dog anywhere else in the building with them, unless it's a service dog. Researchers, this is Miss Jan's thing. So there are 4 filing cabinets in the conference room, and each one has a key, and the keys are up behind the front desk. If a researcher comes in and they want to research,
Tommy Hitchcock.
Then you can look in the indices. There are indices that Jan has up to date at the bottom shelf of the front desk, and one is for vertical files, which is subjects like Tommy Hitchcock or North Augusta or the Mill System, and you can see there and then if you have a file on them, so it's even worth their time to research. We also have the historic house file, so if they own a home in the area or maybe they're a realtor and they're doing research. We also have all the house files there, and they are searchable by name of cottage and owner. Yep. And then what happens is they tell you what file they want, or files, if they want 2 or 3 files. You go back in the conference room, unlock the file cabinet that corresponds, pull it open, pull out the file, we've got a little bookmarkers that green paper marker, bring it up to the front, and let them research up front. Now, if they need to spread out, they can stay in the conference room, but make sure you lock the cabinets back. Because what happens is the people, if the cabinets are left open, they go rifling through them. And they'll put them back in the wrong place, or they'll just go missing. And once the researcher's done with either the books or the files, just go back in the back, and on the top of the cabinet files, there are purple bins. You can leave them in there, and then Jan comes in twice a week and she refiles. Is that everything? Oh, if they want to research objects, so if they want to see a historical map, or historical photographs, they're going to have to make an appointment with me, because I have to go into the archives, find what they're looking for, and then make an appointment with them for them to come and research with it. And of course, when they research with an original artifact, there's no pens allowed, there's no drinks allowed, or food allowed in the area, because we don't want them spilling wine or soda. We don't want the wine chips. They might spill soda or water onto the artifacts, so we want to keep our artifacts as safe as possible. So if they want to see something cool and old, they have to make an appointment. Object donations. We used to get a lot of drop-offs, and every now and then we still do. And one of them, was it 2 years ago, right at the beginning of the pandemic, was the box of melted dolls. It was very scary. Somebody dropped off literally a Lowe's moving box, a large Lowe's moving box of dolls that had melted faces and roach everything all over their clothing. And we don't know who left it. They just dropped them off. I guess thinking that they're old. Museum. No. So also,
the indexes are the binders on the dossiers, and they come in handy if somebody calls.
Yes.
You don't have to go back there, just checking the index, this we do for.
Yeah, exactly. And object donation. Oh yes, Scott.
I'm just going to make a request when we have the volunteer training at the end of the month. Can we have a walkthrough on that?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Because things change and quite honestly, you said need to unlock, I don't know where that key is.
Oh yeah, sure.
So I wouldn't know how to unlock the cabinet.
No problem. Yeah, we can do that. Good point. Object donations. So no more drop-offs are allowed. if they want to donate something to the museum, your first question should be, does it have anything to do with Aiken County? So a lot of people just have old stuff and they think, the museum has a bunch of old stuff, I'll just give it where there's old stuff. But it's got to have a tie to Aiken County person, an Aiken County business, an Aiken County resident. That's who we interpret here. If I don't have a story behind that object, I don't have it. So there's all kinds of forms up front, and again at the front desk, kind of under the little area, it says donation FAQs, and you can pull that out. It has a list of contact information, and it has a form for the people to fill out along with an FAQ. So I thought this was kind of cute. Throughout the year, we check in on our social media to see how people are interacting with the museum. And so here we've got a cute little couple photo shoot on the balcony. Here we've got a visitor standing right about here. And it's hard to read at the bottom, but it says something to the effect of, we had a wonderful trip at the Aiken County Historical Museum. Shout out to our docent who was amazing. And the ship, whose name I can't remember. But, y'all make people's day. By engaging them in a little bit of conversation, asking, hey, why are you here? What's going on? Welcome to the museum. What would you like to know? You can really make a person's day, make an impression. Up here when Leah and I were doing our video tours and things like that during the pandemic first year, this is somebody saying, fueling my ADD, working from home, trying to work, but instead taking a tour. So during the pandemic, one of our best outreaches was our digital outreach. So when we were posting videos to our Facebook, Instagram, things like that, people were really enjoying it. Down here is Leah and I talking in the Langley Back Clearwater exhibit. That was one of our coffee and tea with the counties. And above is Midland Valley Chamber of Commerce saying, thank you ladies so much for highlighting our area of Aiken County. Please check out the museum. It is definitely worth a visit. So again, just reinforcing positive connections into our community. We're not just the city of Aiken Museum, we're the county of Aiken Museum. And up here, visitors having fun in the circus exhibit, standing next to Tom Thumb and posing just like him. So I love that. I love when we can offer things for visitors to interact with. And that's one of the things is as we add new exhibits, we're going to try and create these interactives. Now, these are the good behavior museum guests. Here are the bad behavior museum guests. So here is a lady sitting in our phone booth, holding the phone and holding the sign that says, please do not sit in the phone booth and touch the exhibit. We want to preserve it for future generations. And she's got a big old smile on her face. And here we have Lego Sherlock. Lego Sherlock came and visited us one day, and this woman posted probably 100 photographs and tagged us in all of them. And she had Sherlock posing on all of our artifacts. This one specifically is a 3,000-year-old mortar and pestle that was down in the Native American Museum art exhibit. Now it's up here at the county exhibit under plexiglass. Because yeah, Sherlock was just going spelunking on our 3,000-year-old artifact. Cute kid playing on the waterfall. That's a big one we have trouble with here. And then this is just gross. I don't know if y'all remember when the clown was up in the circus ring. This guy decided to make out with her and thought it was really funny and posted and tagged us in. So people are weird, y'all. People are weird. You never know what you're going to come across. And this is another reason we're adding security cameras. So ACHM Collections is now online. We had them online previously with a different system. The friends of the museum have given us huge financial support, about $1,000 a year, to run this new website. And that's its address right there. And you can check it out. It has, Alyssa has worked very hard on getting this upgraded. We went from about 80 artifacts online to now 700 artifacts online. And each entry, you can go in depth and you can explore and you can get pictures that enlarge. And as a nod to the support of the Friends, you can also click on membership and you can become a member of the Friends and support similar initiatives. Now with that, I'm going to turn it over to Leah. I didn't make slides for your others, so I didn't know what else you wanted. Oh, I know! You know the horror. Sorry, y'all, we're going over time. We'll try minutes and take too much longer.
I'm shocked. Never known you to talk too much.
No comment.
Appreciate that. Okay. So I only have 4 pages. No, it's 2. Okay. You guys are lucky. Okay, so I wanted to, oh, no, wait, it is. It's 3 pages. I forgot. I went backwards. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to talk about is docents and volunteers. We are low on both, and we need to recruit. So if you know of anyone who would like to come in and hang out with us, whether it's here, whether it's a gift shop, whether it is researching anything, please send them my way. And I wanted to talk about the term docent. The term docent is actually being done away with in the museum field. I'm not real sure who decides this, but there's been a movement to stop using the term docent and to just go back to volunteers. So that is not really what I want to do. However, in that vein, I want to have a volunteer training rather than a docent training and a volunteer training. So just one together, and then the docents will have more in depth later, because that's a lot of specialized, stuff that the people from the gift shop or the people that are just here to work events or, that are for researching, they don't need to know, like where to get keys and things like that. But I do want to have a massive volunteer training because so many different people, as you saw when you came in, so many different people that have been here for years don't know each other. And I didn't know, when I first came here, I had no idea. I thought everybody knew everybody, especially if you've been here for, like 10 years, and then this other person has been here for 10 years. But if you didn't work on Tuesday afternoon, you didn't ever come across this person who had been here for years. So I wanted to have that and bring us all together, first of all. And then also to bring us all together on the same page. Because there are a lot of work-time volunteers that don't know about practices and policies that we have in place, and also resources that we have available as well. So I just want everybody to kind of get on the same page again. The SRS Museum is also looking for volunteers. If y'all should know of anyone who would like to volunteer, but who really likes the science part of things, or is an engineer that is bored, or something like that not necessarily into history, but would still like to volunteer, send them to the SRS Museum as well, because they are in need. We also would like to reinvigorate the docent council. But instead of the docent council, we'll make it the volunteer council. And so that way it covers the gift shop volunteers, it covers the docent, and it covers our other just regular volunteers like the researchers, gardeners, things like that. And what we would want the volunteer council to be is a place where it will be made up of 5, 6, 7 people, and it will be a place where you can come and bring your issues or maybe something that you aren't comfortable bringing to me or to Lauren, but you would be more comfortable talking to somebody, that you work with on Thursday afternoon or something. So we want it to be a safe space for y'all, but also somewhere that you can kind of bring your grievances or your delights or suggestions, whatever it may be. And then just really quick, don't forget that our volunteer training is on February 28th. It'll be from 1 to 3. And we're gonna have some random refreshments that day, maybe some peach salsa and chips. And we will be going over some of the things that we've talked about today in more detail. Okay, does anybody have any questions about volunteer, docent, anything like that? Okay, so events. We are holding off on events for now until we kind of see what is going on with the new variant. The Friends have moved their lectures forward in time to March and April. And so we're just kind of going to take their cue and move forward in those months. So February, just be docent training or volunteer training, and then we'll start things off with the Source of Light exhibit reception, which will be March 4th. And so that will start that. However, things like the Pegasia tour, which isn't really an event, but it kind of comes under that purview. The Pegasia tour is still going to be the fourth Tuesday of every month, except November and December. And there are other things that I want to still keep having. But right now we're going to start off with March 4th with the exhibit opening. Then the 25th, as Lauren said, the 25th of March will be the military exhibit opening. And then the Historic House Committee, we actually had a series of lectures that we were hoping to debut in March of 2020. Oh, what children we were, what sweet summer children we were. So we have, there's several people, 4 or 5 people that have a lecture in their back pocket ready to go, but, we've yet to have the time. So what I would like to do is let the friends have their lecture and then let a little time pass, and so people get their juices going again for another series of lectures. And it'll be historic houses in Aiken County, of course. I personally would like to dip my toe back in the event water by starting to host workshops. I feel a little more comfortable with workshops because, we can have a smaller number than this in here, and everybody be socially distanced and have their masks off if they want. And then we'll just have one speaker, one instructor, and they can work one-on-one with someone if they need to. But 12, 10 people tops. And I do have several workshops that I've been percolating for a while, that I would like to get on the program. The events that we've had in the can for a while are murder mystery events, the movie night at the museum. I would like to have an adults only Easter egg hunt. That sounds a little more risque than it is, but it just means that we would start a line. So, yeah, and maybe the eggs would be glow in the dark. So, not nearly as risque as it sounds. And then another thing I would like to do, because I saw a museum have this a couple years ago, and I went nuts. I wanted to go to a summer camp for adults. You would be in the evening, and you would do a little craft and learn something, but it would be a cool craft that you would use in your adult life, whether it's like a wine stopper sculpture, I don't know, but something like that.
And then we sleep in tents?
No, you have to stay here. So potentially have 2 to 3 hours in the evenings for that. And then we could have day camps for kids too, but only about 3 hours because I don't have the manpower to do an entire full day camp. The workshops that I'm thinking of are herbs, an herb workshop. I've led several herb workshops myself, and we made things like lip balm, room spray, just about anything. And then everybody had an herb to take on with them. Natural dyeing, I've led a couple of natural dyeing workshops myself. I tried to do a storytelling workshop once when I first came, and no one signed up for it. So that's all there too. The poetry, the Atkins Poet Society, they would love to have a poetry workshop here. Any other kind of fiber arts, because so many people in the area that are fiber artists. And then Aiken Artists Guild, have someone from there, and we have painting and drawing and printmaking and watercolor and sculptures. And it just kind of runs the gamut of what we can do if we put things down on the floor first. Events that will happen this year, we have the egg roll on Easter Monday. That's in April. The garden show in May. Mr. Howe's birthday in June. And that will just be, we're just gonna have cake and depending on
Special Thanksgiving tour.
yeah, a special Pegasia tour that is for, we always say for children, but it's for the family tour. I love it. And then depending on who works that day, Ian may leave the room in a rousing rendition of Happy Birthday Mr. So that's in June, that's the end of June. And then Day is in July. And so we'll do another play activity and talk about David Drake, the potter. In September, we do volunteer training. In October is our Pegasia After Dark spooky tours. November, the quilt show. And then our holiday bazaar will be in December. And the thank you luncheon comes back. From hell or high water, I tell y'all. We're going to eat this year. We're going to do it. So that is what I have for the year coming up. Now, if the world suddenly opens up and we are able to do more things, I do want to start doing more outreach, more school tours, and really just kind of more specialized tours. So just more that we can offer, more that we can offer to children, and just to be able to get our name out there again. Because with the last couple of years, our school field trips, obviously went way down. So we need to get the babies back in here. Because if you get them over to the dark side early, then you get
Then you get us.
Yeah, you get adults like more. Bless your hearts. Does anyone have any questions about events?
I'm just on the researcher comes in and they use the file. A lot of them think they can't bother. They can't leave the museum, and particularly when there's needs in the conference room, we have books stolen. They're there. So just kind of be aware of that.
I did get some potato chips.
Awesome. Everybody can have a chip.
I think that's it. Yeah, there'll be Asiago chips. So, like I said, where's the sirens today? Yeah. We do thank you all so much for coming out today. We do want to know your thoughts. So if you want to bring a question now and pose it to the group or to Leah and I, please do so. If you'd rather contact us later for the question, please do so. If you want, like I said, one of our strategic plan copies, please feel free to take one with you. Or if you want it digitally, I'm happy to send it to you. It's a public document for anybody, everybody to see what the goals for the museum are. We do have a recent passing to tell you of. Jerry Lesperance, I don't know if any of y'all work with him here at the museum. He was Tuesday mornings. It's been a while, but he was Tuesday morning with Miss Ray and Miss Julia. So his funeral is this Wednesday at St. Gerard's out on Idri Avenue. So if anybody's interested, it's at 11 o'clock. But he was a wonderful gentleman, and we're so glad that he was here at the museum with us. Always a hoot. And then he with Miss Ray, with Miss Julia, they had us cackling every day. It's Bob.
Yeah, his obituary was in yesterday's Aiken Standard, and it also can be found on the George Funeral Home website. So, and also, by the way, for those of you that knew Julia Stentz, I talked to her. I sent her an email when I found out about Jerry, because she used to do docent duty with him, or volunteer duty with him all the time. And so she called and we chatted a bit. She said, "Please say hello to anybody that that might know her and remember her."
Yeah.
Do you have that in Louisiana or where you?
Not ready yet.
Okay, you are.
Yeah. Yeah, she has family down in New Orleans,
Wow.
and so she went home to Lafayette. Her and Lynn are down there near the university and having a ball with Rugrats.
Except for the hurricane, she loves it.
Yes. So are there any questions? I'll start Nancy.
So one question that I've been getting a lot more recently, and sort of concerning artifacts is people would want help identifying something or, like
Yes.
they don't know what they have and we're a museum, so they think, oh, maybe someone here will know. And I never really know who to send them to or if I should send them to anyone or something, find a appraiser or something, but yeah, what do you recommend on that?
Yeah, good question. So a lot of visitors come in with an artifact and they want to know what they have. So it's either an identification process or they want to know how much it's worth, which is an appraisal concern. Sometimes they want both. As a museum tied to a 501c3 and a government entity, we cannot give appraisals. It's against the codes of museums, museum ethics, and I think legally we can't do it. So we cannot offer appraisals. That being said, we do have ties to the community with certain appraisers. So when I was at the Augusta Museum of History, we used to recommend a local auction house. That auction house usually had the best idea of what the current fair market value on a type of artifact might be. We've also can recommend there's a certified appraisers America website that we can recommend. If it's more Aiken and Aiken County specific, I would say send them to me because I might know more about the actual artifact and its relationship to Aiken County history. If it's something that's more generic, I would send them elsewhere to either an antique store in town or a conservator or an appraiser, just because I'm not going to have a wide knowledge base on something like that. Like we had a gentleman who came in, I think 3.5 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, and he swore up and down he had a copy of the second draft of Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. What he had was a gift shop parchment from, I'm sure, what was probably Gettysburg National Park. He didn't know that. He had found it in the house he was renovating. He was convinced it was the Gettysburg Address. I was able to easily say, no, it's not. He said I was wrong, and I told him to go somewhere else. For information on that. So if it's Aiken County related, I would say give them my card. If it's not, send them somewhere else. Because we're just not going to have the knowledge base. But that's a very good question. Bob?
As is typical of me, I have both a compliment and a complaint.
Sure.
So which one do you want first?
Complaint.
Complaint?
Complaint.
Look around the room and you can tell that there's an all-female staff. How many males do you see in the room?
I tried to keep him out of here. I tried hard.
Now, that's the only complaint I got after 12 years. And that leads right into the compliment. Having been here 12 years, I've never seen the museum look better, both inside and outside. I've never seen it so well run, so well organized, and that's a compliment to the current administration. You've done a wonderful job. Oh, and I've never seen it so vibrant, and today's presentation just reinforced that vibrancy of all the things. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd take the wine and thin.
We
We
did
did
have
have a male staff.
the one, yeah, we had Bill Parchin for a while too. He was a director here for a little bit. No, thank you, Bob. That means a lot because we are trying to make ourselves better here. It's one of those things where we know we fall sometimes and falter in our plans. I know I've pushed several exhibits off into the distance several times, and every time I think, everybody's going to kill me. They're just going to kill me because they're like, Lauren never gets anything done. But I think we're trying to take on a lot of new stuff and broaden our scope of the services we can offer to our guests. And sometimes that does make our time schedules tighter and more limited, unfortunately. But especially now that Leah is both our admin assistant, assistant director, purchase order manager, volunteer manager, gift store manager, site manager, events manager, and educational rentals. Yeah. and So,
Well, you must have got a big raise.
so
I got a new chair, so I'll just get hired.
Oh.
just kidding.
I'd like to see the term docent used as a whole different connotation to the public.
It is.
It's involved.
That is something.
Learn is volunteer, but not necessarily docent.
Yeah.
Docent means a certain. Good for you, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's true.
To the public.
Yeah.
And they say, and you tell somebody volunteer here, you say, well, what do you do? So you might as well say, oh,
Yeah, it's actually something that surprised me when I first got here because normally a museum volunteer is just a museum volunteer. You're a docent if you give guided tours. It's a certain type of volunteer that greets the public, gives them a tour, things like that. So that's something we've actually talked about too, because docent is kind of on its way out of the museum. You know, we're constantly trying to improve our professional education and learn more about the museum field, going off to conferences and things like that, doing workshops. And one of the trends we just noticed is the falling of the wayside of the word docent. So that's true. That's true.
And why would you
It's just old fashioned.
It's old fashioned and it doesn't really, cover what a docent actually does. And also, we don't really have docents. Because as you said, a docent is someone that gives guided tours. And we don't really have docents, we have finance volunteers. Yeah. Which is also in your docent handbook.
Oh, I knew that. That's all to say that we're constantly evolving. We're trying to always bring something new and more efficiently operated too, is always our goal. But if you see something, you know, please let us know. If you hear from guests that they have a suggestion about something like the labels came down on Nancy Clodmore McKim and Nancy Thurman, because visitors came in and spotted that I had 2 errors in them. And so I had to reprint them and they're going back up again. So if a visitor catches something, let us know, make a note of it. We'll put it down on I have an Excel sheet, a running Excel sheet of all the errors that I need to fix. So we're constantly looking to improve ourselves. Chris?
You know, one thing I noticed is the pictures of Banksia.
I know.
That was my fault. I'm supposed to be doing what do you call those things? A photograph album. I'm supposed to be doing a photograph album so that you can just, they're centrally located and you can look at them as close as you want. So I'm supposed to be doing a photograph album of all of the 1931 pictures of Banksia.
And something we're also going to be doing too is, you know, they used to all be grouped at the front. One thing we're going to try and do now is as you enter each room, sort of like it was a little bit before, but this is going to be more interpreted. We're going to have a panel that has the little photograph, and we're just going to have an explanation of it. Yeah, because before it was just a parlor. I know. But I don't want to put holes in our brand new beautiful wood.
No, we won't be putting them up. We'll be somewhere else.
Yeah.
Oh, that's it.
I know.
Well, they can go someplace else.
We're gonna put a photo out in the next room.
Yeah, that's good. We'll have them in there as well.
Yeah, but I think when you're in a particular room, that's when you're trying to visualize it. You have to go back out there, remember to come back in another room and figure out.
And that was kind of the idea. Is, you know, we have pictures of the front of the house, so to speak. They never photographed the servants' wing, unfortunately, and downstairs and whatnot. But we do have photographs of everything up here. So the idea would be is you walked into the military, kind of like there used to be the hanging photograph there next to the bathroom entrance. And instead, we're going to have a reproduction of that photograph because we don't want the photographs to get damaged by light or humidity or things like that. So the originals are going to go into the archive. We're going to have reproductions, nice one, and then underneath it, it will explain this was a guest bedroom operated, you know, that was created by the Howe family. It had 2 twin beds, as you noticed. The fireplace is gone, blah, blah, blah. So a little bit of a spiel about maybe some of the guests who have stayed here, like we had the Marquesa of blah, 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 who came here, maybe she stayed in that room. Things like that, that gives people a little bit more of a context of what they're seeing. And that's part of my big thing with a lot of stuff that we have going on, because if you walk into the Winter Colony, there's no real overall panel that explains what the Winter Colony was. There's bits and pieces, but there's no overall interpretation. Same thing with the railroad. When you walk in the railroad, we've got some cool railroad artifacts, but where's the history of the railroad? And why did it come here? And, Aiken was a railroad city and things like that. So for a long time, we've had bits and pieces of the story in different areas. And it's my goal to start really creating overall panel stories. Someone can get the gist as soon as they walk into the room and then explore the artifacts. Yes, ma'am.
In working in the gift store, I am always amazed at the people that come from around the world.
Yeah.
In New Zealand, Australia.
It's so cool. I know it's one of those things that always surprises me, but I think with the equestrian industry here, and then when you tie into that the Masters tournament, we just see so many people from all different countries. I think, have we gotten everybody, every continent so far?
Mhm.
Yeah, we've gotten every continent.
We've
Except for
only
Antarctica.
had 3 international visitors this year so far. But we had St. Lucia, and we haven't had that before. So
Yeah.
that's cool. I literally read every single line of every sign-in sheet.
Yeah, and we tally all of it, especially if you can, when somebody signs in, encourage them to circle how they found out about us, because that really helps us with grants.
We need more options for that, because
Oh.
90% of the time, someone moves that box and they just drove by, or they heard from a friend, or
So we need
there's,
a word of
yeah,
mouth.
there's something that's not there for them
Okay.
to circle.
I would-
Can we have another?
Yeah.
You can have another.
And I'm just over by the side, because there's so many people, like you said, drive by.
Yeah.
I have somebody that puts every time they come frequent flyer.
But yeah, having like an other with even just like a little line or something that would definitely improve the ability to fill it.
Perfect, yes, that's good feedback, thank you. Yeah, the reason we actually started that is one of the grants we applied for. One of the grants we applied for was the brochure, that new wrap card that we got. So we're supposed to track how effective it is bringing people in. That's why Leah was the brochure slot on Thursday up in Columbia, so we could get more of those brochures out and about. So, yeah. Any other questions, comments? Sorry, I was took you an hour and a half. And thank y'all so much. Thank you for coming in and spending an hour and a half with us, and we'll see y'all around. Thank you so much.